Hey you guys, hopefully everyone's having a good day. So, today's going to be an interesting topic, and I want you to look at photographs, any photographs. Ones on your wall, ones on your phone, ones you took of yourself last weekend. And now I want you to ask yourself one question, and I want you to be honest with yourself, okay? Who decided what was worth seeing in that image? Right? Was it you? Was it the photographer? Was it the culture you grew up in, the media you've consumed your entire life, the social platform, that is decided to show you to your first place or whatever it is, right? Because there's a uncomfortable truth that there's a few books that I'm going to talk about that were written back in 1972 and is going to lay that I'm going to lay on you today, okay? And you probably never looked at photography neutrally, not once, not ever. My name is Stevo, and today we're going to talk about Ways of Seeing by John Berger, which is a very phenomenal book, and it's one of, uh, probably the best books you can read when it comes to uh, written about images. And he talks about how it's important because books that are written specifically about images and ones that every single photographer needs to read, and it wrestles with and sits uncomfortably inside of you for a while. So Berger opens his book Ways of Seeing with a statement that sounds simple but yet hits like a freight train right off the bat. And seeing comes before the words. Seeing comes before the words. Before a child can speak, if can see, right? Before you could name anything in the world, you were already taking it in visually. Sight is our most primary way of experiencing reality. But here's where it gets really complicated. The moment you start to see, like really see, right, consistently, you bring everything with you: your history, your culture, your assumptions, your fears, the way you were raised, the images you've been surrounded by your entire life. And Berger says that how we see things are affected by what we know and what we believe. And now, another one is titled Terry Barrett, who wrote Criticizing Photographers. And this is also a very, very important book. And in Criticizing Photographers, Terry Barrett builds on the idea that he argues that every image exists in a context, and that context is doing enormous work on how we interpret what we see. And here's the practical, challenge for you as a photographer. Every person who looks at your images is not seeing what you saw when you made it. They are seeing what they bring to it, their life, their lens, right? That should change how you think about every single frame you make. Here's the idea from Ways of Seeing that I think about curiosity, and once you hear it, I think you will too. Berger talks about what happens to an image the moment it is reproduced: copies, printed, shares, posted, distributed, whatever. He uses printing as a primary example, specifically the Mona Lisa, right? That painting hangs in one place. It has one physical reality, but the moment it gets reproduced, put on a poster or a postcard, a phone screen, a mug, something changes. The image detaches from its original meaning and takes on whatever meaning the new context is giving it. So now bring that idea forward 55 years into the world where we actually live in, right? You make a photograph, a real moment, a real decision, real light, real intentions, and then you post it. And the moment it hits the feed, it is sitting next to someone's vacation photo, a sponsored ad for running shoes, a meme, a news headline. The algorithm decides who sees it and when. The platform decides what size it displays it at, what size it's going to be displayed at, and the viewer is scrolling at the speed that gives you your image roughly 1 second of attention before their thumb moves. And Berger would argue, and I agree with this, and I think he'd be right, that an image you made and an image being received are two completely different things. So the question is, does that bother you? And if it does, what are you going to do about it? One of the most groundbreaking ideas in way of seeing is Berger's analysis of how men and women have historically been portrayed in images. He makes a distinction that is, brutally simple and impossible to unsee once you see it, right? Men act, women appear, right? And so what he's talking about is through, centuries of Western paintings, that we've seen through, out history. Berger argues this crises directly into a photography and advertising where men are depicted as doing things, having power, taking up space, where women are depicted as being looked at as existing for the viewer's gaze, right? But then you have Terry Barrett, where he extends this into photography criticism, asking us to look at who is behind the camera, who is in front of it, and whose perspective shapes what gets framed and worth being in this scene. And here's your challenge as a photographer: look at your own work, right? Who are your subjects? Who are they positioned? Who has agencies in their frame, right? What's the meaning? Who looks like they have power and who looks like they exist purely to be observed? This is not about guilt. This is about awareness. The most intentional photographs are the ones who ask these questions before they press the shutter, not after, right? The final big idea is that Berger depicts significant portions of the book to publicly in what we would call advertising, and his argument is razor sharp. Publicity does not sell your product, it sells an image of yourself after you have a product. It sells you as a feeling, a version of your life that is slightly better, slightly more glamorous, slightly more worthy of being seen. And it does this entirely through images. Every photograph, within advertisement is constructed reality. The light is chosen, the model is chosen, the setting is chosen. Every single element that is going to be in that shoot is there to create a specific feeling. And that specific feeling is that something is missing from your life right now, or that this product is what will fill that gap. Now, here's where this gets really interesting, specifically for photographers, is because we're not all publishers, right? Every time you post an image on social media, you are participating in the same visual economy. The Berger, that Berger was criticizing. back in 1972. Yes, you are constructing a version of reality. You are choosing what to show and what to hide. You are, you're selling, even if you aren't selling, it's just a version of yourself. Like, even if you aren't in photography, that's what you're doing. You're trying to sell a version of yourself. And that's not an, accumulation. That's just the truth of the medium that we're all working in right now. Now, the question Berger would ask you is that, you know, I want you the question Berger would ask you, and it is the question I want to leave you with, is this: are you doing it consistently or are you doing it on autopilot? So let's come back where we started, right? That photography, that that photography you thought of at the beginning of this video on your wall, on your phone, and you made yourself, you see it hopefully differently now, even just slightly. And that slight difference is that tiny shift and how we look at our images is exactly what, John Berger and Terry Barrett were after. Seeing comes before words, but understanding what you're seeing, that takes work. It takes studying the forces, the shapes, every image before it reaches your eyes, the culture behind it, the gaze inside it, the context around it, the economy that produced it. The best photographers are not just people who know how to use light, they are people who know how to think about an image and ways of seeing, both ways of seeing and criticizing photos by John Barrett. They're great reads and they will sit with you, arguably with it. Like, I mean, phenomenal books. And, go pick up your camera, and if you look through the viewfinder just a little bit differently, please drop the photos and I'll see you in my next one. And have a lovely day.